been afraid to step up and speak out. Hilary has been a longtime friend of WPSR and has even been to our galas before. Besides being a WPSR supporter, we were also excited way back in the spring to invite Hilary to give our keynote because of how, as Commissioner of Public Lands, she has moved the Department of Natural Resources that she heads from being mainly just concerned with trees and forest fires to seeing that it can play an important role in tackling climate change. Also relevant to the work we do at WPSR, she has pushed DNR into a place where it can use its resources and holdings to create jobs and build affordable housing. Now, not as directly relevant to WPSR, and maybe I'm skating on some thin ice in bringing this up. You may not know that before going on to all her other accomplishments, Hilary developed her tenaciousness in part through long hours training for 12 years, starting at age 5 as a competitive figure skater. Often sharing the ice where she trained in Portland with Tanya Harding. Yes, that Tanya Harding. Now, while she won't be performing any toe loops or triple axels tonight, I'm still very excited to welcome Hilary to the stage.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well that's quite an intro. Yeah, you know, I actually was in ice skating. I learned quite a bit. I'm going to digress before I even get started here just because of that. But my motto is avoid the crowbar and always carry a blade. It works on the ice as much as it does when you're firefighting in the fields with Pulaskis. But I will say one thing that I never knew. My father raised my sister and I on his own, a single father, and dedicated his life to taking care of us. Literally had on this, yeah, you can clap for my father. Thank you. And literally every morning, we were up at 3:30 on the ice by 4 a.m., skated 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, literally 365 days of the year for 13 years. And yeah, unbelievable dedication by my father, let's be frank, because when my first son was born, I was like, there is no way in hell I'm getting up for 4 a.m. for you. But you know what I learned in ice skating, which I think isn't something my father thought when he was putting me on the ice that early in the morning, which is that, you know, too often in the work we do, and I know in medicine as well as in politics, that failure just feels very much like not an option, right? Where you are afraid to actually take a step forward because you will fall down. And it could be the end of your medical career, or it could be the end of your political career. And in what I learned in ice skating is that every single day, I'm going to fall 1,000 times. And every single day, I knew that before I could land a triple Lutz, a triple flip, a triple toe loop, I would fall thousands and thousands of times, months after month after month. And never once did I say, you suck, you need to stop skating. You don't. You just say, I'm one more fall closer to landing that triple. And if you think about it, and you think about the crisis and challenges we have in front of us every single day, we need to be allowing ourselves, our leaders, and our children to be able to take a step forward and sometimes fall down. Truly. I say that because there are really no mistakes in life. It's only lessons to be learned, and we have to start allowing ourselves to learn those lessons if we're going to actually address our greatest health crisis and our greatest environmental crisis. I want to thank you, though, for having me here. I actually truly love doctors. I love medicine. I wasn't smart enough to go to medical school like the rest of you, so I went to political school. But in addition to that, I have 3 boys that all now have fled the house and are doing quite well, but they have had frequent visits to the hospitals and urgent care and emergency rooms, and I like to think, but for you saving them, I would probably be in Child Protective Services, so I want to thank you. I also want to just thank you for every single day taking care of the young and the old, the healthy and the unhealthy. You, as physicians, every single day actually help us care for our bodies. from reducing the chance of disease or chronic illness to healing our bodies when we're sick. You recommend we eat a balanced diet, that we drink clean water, and we breathe clean air, we exercise regularly, and don't smoke or drink too much alcohol. Politics does not help me on that one. But you also understand the connectedness between people and place, that we can't take care of people if we don't take care of place. And if our water is contaminated, so too will our bodies become contaminated when we drink that water. If our air is filled with wildfire smoke, so too will our lungs become filled and harmed by that smoke. If our soils are so deficient that we can't grow fresh vegetables and fruit, so too will our bodies and our brains become deficient. And if our temperatures rise too hot, so too will our body temperatures rise, leading to heat stroke and possible death. I didn't learn how connected our environment is to our health as Commissioner of Public Lands. Managing 6 million acres of land and water in every single corner of this state, or fighting thousands of wildfires every year. Or as an environmental land use attorney working on protecting and preserving forests and farmlands and waters from destruction. I actually learned it as a small child. As a child growing up in Portland, Oregon, I grew up in a starkly different environments. I was fortunate to live part of the time with my father in a neighborhood. And I would walk on Sundays. My dad believed in organic food and only organic food, starting at 1971. And that's where we bought our produce every single week, where the meat we ate came from my grandparents' ranch in Pierce County, ranchers since 1938, and where we played in local parks just a few blocks away, and where the streets were lined with towering horse chestnut trees that provided hours of fun in the summer. I spent the other time of my childhood actually moving around in different homes and different neighborhoods. And while the neighborhoods changed quite often, the fact is there were stark differences from the neighborhood I was with my father and the neighborhood I was with my mother. The most pronounced difference for me was the lack of trees lining the streets. That our playground wasn't a park, it was actually a parking lot. And that the closest food store was a 7-Eleven with an unlimited supply of candy, preservative donuts, and sodas and slushies. And at the time, I didn't understand the difference, but I felt it. It was pretty palpable. I didn't understand why one neighborhood was different than another. I didn't know it then, but the difference between those neighborhoods was part of a long history of social engineering, where we, in urban planning and investment, really truly began redlining and preferential greening. It is a story that's played out in every city and every state across our country. And it's a story that has not disappeared from our cities today. It's a story that is having deadly consequences in the face of a rapidly changing climate. As we saw earlier this year in Texas and Arizona, and even right here in Washington during the heat dome just a few years ago, where over 120 people died. We can look back through time, and we can see how we didn't take care of place, and as a result, we truly harmed people. These communities have higher rates of asthma, obesity, heart disease, cancer, and dramatically reduced life expectancy. And with climate change being here now and not something that's far off in the future, we must rapidly start investing in place if we're going to take care of people. We must actually start to restore the health of our forests in eastern and central Washington, as well as western Washington, as we know, that are struggling from disease and insect infestation and drought, to reduce these catastrophic wildfires that are choking our skies, and they're destroying our lands, our waters, and as you saw with the horrific pictures in Medical Lake and in Spokane County, they are destroying our communities. We must rapidly invest in increasing our soil and nutrients to reduce the loss of topsoil, because we're now seeing dust storms on the 1 million acres of agricultural land that I manage. And we must be able to do that to increase food production. And we must rapidly be investing in planting trees and greening up our communities, something that used to be a nice to have, but we now know, because we're smarter, that it is a must have to reduce stormwater, water pollution, cleaner air, and also cooler temperatures. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about, as we do this work, we must also learn from the past, because we can also look back through time to see how we took care of place and we also harmed people. We took care of place and we harmed people. In my work, I see our lands and waters are truly struggling. I see also how our communities are truly struggling. From the biggest of cities, and like Seattle and Spokane, to our smallest of towns, Omak, Ilwaco, Raymond, Republic, from increasing homelessness and substance abuse to increasing high school dropout rates and unemployment to generational poverty, decade after decade after decade. In my work, I remember meeting a man in late 40s who grew up on the coast of Washington, rural Washington. He said the most significant moment of childhood was the year the spotted owl decision came down, where overnight millions of acres of forest had to be preserved to save the spotted owl. It was truly important that we did protect those old growth forests. Those are the lungs of our state. They are the lungs that are helping ensure that we have healthy waters, healthy salmon and fish and bird populations, and also a healthy planet. The fact is, though, thousands of jobs were literally lost overnight. And as the months passed following that decision, he witnessed his classmates struggling, going without meals, facing increased abuse at home, addiction, where not only were the parents numbing their pain, but the children were numbing theirs as well, and eventually dropping out. And the data reflects that these decisions of the past are now our problems of today. Today, our rural areas continue to have increased poverty, child homelessness and addiction, and domestic violence. There are more homeless children in Grays Harbor County than King County. There are more homeless children in Grays Harbor than King County. And both counties need to be taken care of. Indeed, generational poverty has now set into these communities, and it's playing out in our politics, where urban and rural areas have become divided on social, environmental, and political and economic issues. And we have actually become comfortable with this divide. The politics of righteousness, fear, and anger have made us believe that these are problems that are not our fault. These are problems that are not our problem. The conflict between urban and rural areas has rigidified to a point where a severe schism has grown between a class of rural producers. Food. That was perfectly timed. Wood. Water. She did pour that just on time, too. And energy. Right? I'm going to say that again. The conflict between our urban and rural areas has rigidified to a point where a severe schism has grown between a class of rural producers, food, wood, water, and energy, and a class of urban consumers. And because of that, we really haven't understood what it meant to do the things we've done historically. We're constantly attacking others or defending ourselves without ever trying to understand each other. This is not just a lesson for urban communities, but it's also for a rural population. We're constantly not learning what we need to do differently going forward and how we both need each other for our environment and our people to be healthy. Well, I believe our planet and our people are ultimately at risk right now. That when we actually don't care about understanding the impact of our past environmental decisions, and we don't go into these communities to understand their challenges and work with them to create a healthier social, economic, and environmental outcomes, both place and people will be negatively impacted. We love innovation, we love technology, we love our smart phones and our smart homes, we love our wood homes, our hospitals, our schools, and we love our food delivered right to our doorstep. But we do not actually go out to meet the producers of these goods and understand where these goods come from. They are the people that are providing our food, our water, our wood to build our homes, hospitals, and schools. And we do not realize the challenges they are facing. I believe our survival will not ultimately be determined by all the technological advancements, creativity, and innovation to solve climate change. Instead, I think ultimately our survival will be determined by how we treat each other, and especially the poor, the neglected, and the condemned. Because we need each other. Because ultimately, our humanity depends on everyone's humanity. My favorite line of Martin Luther King is, "We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a garment of inescapable destiny. One act of kindness reverberates through that garment. One day of leaning in, showing love, showing compassion, finding common ground, changes the outcome of those not yet born." Changes the outcome of those not yet born. We all, and I know you all understand this because you are in the medical profession, we should all care about improving the outcomes of every child, no matter what zip code they live in, the color of their skin, or whether their parents or themselves vote Democrat or Republican. The work we are trying to do at my agency is to actually finally heal our lands and waters and heal our communities. This is rooted in the fact that all of our survival is truly tied to the survival of every single person, and that our work to care and save this planet has to be married with our work to care and save our most vulnerable people. More than ever, as we are surrounded by a rapidly changing planet and rapidly increasing poverty, we must come together to take care of both people and place, realizing they are not mutually exclusive. In fact, it's the opposite. We cannot take care of people if we do not take care of place, and we cannot take care of place if we do not take care of people. Every single one of us is part of the same race, which is the human race. I want to thank you all for helping do what you do to help heal our people, young and old, strong and weak, rich and poor. I want to thank you all for how you've showed up constantly to raise the issue of our people and our communities and the importance of taking care of them, at the same time taking care of our planet. I look forward to working with you each and every day, and I appreciate you being our mentors and our role models and our inspiration. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Wow.